A history the world was never meant to remember. You are chained in the lower hold of a ship. The air is thick with damp wood and rotting fish. Each breath burns your throat. Darkness presses in from every direction. You cannot see the faces around you, only hear them. Shallow breathing, suppressed sobs, the quiet sounds of people trying not to panic. 6 days ago, you were somewhere else. 6 days ago, you were inside the stone walls of Lindisfarne Abbey, praying at dawn, as you had done countless times before. The rhythm of faith gave structure to every hour of your life. Bells, scripture, silence. The belief that within those walls you were protected. That belief did not survive the fog. At first light, shapes emerged from the sea. Long, narrow ships cutting through the mist, dragon heads carved into their prows. By the time the alarm was raised, it was already too late. What followed would mark the beginning of the Viking Age, and for 23 women, it would mark the end of the lives they knew. The day the sacred failed, June 8th, 793 AD. The island of Lindisfarne sat just off the coast of Northumbria, one of the most sacred sites in Christian Europe. For over a century, monks had lived and worked there, copying manuscripts, preserving learning, praying for a violent world they believed faith could tame. The abbey housed relics of saints, illuminated texts bound in gold, silver crosses, chalices passed down through generations. But more than treasure, it represented something deeper, the idea that devotion offered sanctuary. Rumors had reached the island, coastal settlements attacked, foreign raiders. But Lindisfarne was holy ground. Surely God would not allow such a place to fall. That morning, the fog hid everything. When the ships finally appeared, they came without warning. No negotiation, no demand for tribute, no attempt to communicate. The men who ran toward the shore, believing traders had arrived, were cut down before they understood what was happening. The attack was swift, organized, practiced. Some raiders moved directly to the church, others to the treasury, others to the living quarters. There was no chaos, only efficiency. This was not an outburst of violence, it was a system. Within hours, the abbey was silent. Every monk was dead, but the women were not. Why they were taken. The survivors were gathered, bound, and forced toward the shore as smoke rose behind them. The men from the north did not take captives at random. They never had. To understand why these women were spared, you must understand the society that took them. In early Scandinavian culture, slavery was a structured institution. Captives were categorized, assigned value, distributed according to function. Labor, status, symbolism, all were calculated. Women from religious institutions held particular significance. They represented literacy in an illiterate age. Knowledge of medicine, textiles, record-keeping. But beyond usefulness, they carried symbolic power. Capturing them was not simply an act of conquest. It was an ideological statement, a declaration that no god could protect those who served him. What happened on that beach was not improvisation. It was selection. Some captives were deemed unfit and executed immediately. Others were separated and bound more carefully. Those chosen were not told where they were going. They were only told to remain silent. The voyage north, the journey across the sea lasted weeks. The ships did not exist to carry people comfortably. The lower holds were dark, damp, and airless. The captives were kept restrained, fed minimally, denied any sense of time or direction. This was not cruelty for its own sake. It was preparation. Modern psychology would recognize the pattern instantly. Isolation, uncertainty, humiliation, dependency. Identity stripped away piece by piece. Not through constant violence, but through control. The captors did not need to explain what awaited them. Fear filled in the gaps far more effectively than words. By the time the coastline of Scandinavia appeared, many of the captives had already learned the most dangerous lesson of all. Resistance changed nothing. Processing the captive upon arrival, the captives were not taken directly to households. They were brought to holding structures, places where slaves were examined, classified, and assigned. Cleaned, inspected, evaluated. Not as people, but as assets. Older women were assigned to domestic labor. Younger women were distributed according to status and demand. Some were sent inland. Others remained near trading centers. Their futures were decided by strangers who would never learn their names. What followed for many of them would not be recorded in detail. That silence is not accidental. The erasure begins. Christian chroniclers documented the raid on Lindisfarne with horror. They described blood on altars, sacred texts burned, a holy place defiled. But when it came to the captives, the language changed. Vague references, carefully chosen words, no specifics. The absence speaks louder than the text, because everyone knew what captivity meant in the early medieval world. And acknowledging it openly would have raised an unbearable question. Why was nothing done? Christian kings did not intervene. Bishops issued prayers, not rescues. Families who had believed the monastery offered protection were left with no answers. Silence became policy. Life in captivity. For those who survived the first years, life settled into a grim routine. They worked. They endured. They adapted. Some were forced to abandon their faith publicly. Others practiced it quietly, in secret, clinging to fragments of identity that reminded them who they once were. Children were born into ambiguity, neither fully free nor entirely enslaved. Some were acknowledged, others disappeared. Time erased distinctions, language shifted, memories faded, and yet traces remained. Later, sagas speak of foreign women who could read, who taught children strange prayers, who carried symbols from another world, who whispered stories of a god who suffered. Were these the women of Lindisfarne? We cannot say with certainty. But the timelines align. A pattern repeated Lindisfarne was not an isolated event. Over the next 2 centuries, coastal monasteries across Britain, Ireland, and mainland Europe were attacked. The same pattern repeated: wealth taken, religious men killed, women captured. The preference was strategic. Monasteries offered 3 things raiders sought: treasure, minimal defenses, and captives with symbolic and practical value. Each raid reinforced the system. Each silence allowed it to continue. History is rarely kind, but sometimes it is bitterly ironic. The very women taken to humiliate Christianity may have played a role in its spread. Long after the raids ended, Scandinavian rulers began converting, not always through missionaries, but through households, through mothers, through stories passed down quietly. Belief survived where armies failed. By the 12th century, the old gods had faded. Temples were gone, sagas rewritten. A new faith dominated the north. Victory, achieved not by swords, but through generations shaped by people history refused to name. Archaeology offers fragments, a grave containing both a cross and a hammer, bones showing signs of long labor, isotopes revealing a life that began in one land and ended in another. No name, no monument, only evidence. The women of Lindisfarne left no letters, no testimonies, no official records. What remains is silence. And silence, too, is a historical source. The most disturbing part of this story is not what was done. It is that it was allowed, that it was known, that it was forgotten on purpose. Remembering these women does not undo their suffering, but forgetting them completes the violence. History does not erase itself. People erase it, carefully, deliberately, one omission at a time. At Hidden Secret Tales, we don't chase myths or romantic legends. We uncover what power tried to bury, the systems behind the